It's 3 o'clock, so we will start the webinar. Welcome everybody to our webinar on how to scale your business in China. This is part of our series of webinars on doing business in China. As everybody might as well know, China has successfully resumed work under the pandemic. So for companies who would like to consider China or would like to expand in China, this is the time right now. My name is Jing. I am from Horizons Corporate Advisory, and I will be the moderator for today. Today, we are joined by two speakers, one from Horizons Advisory, Ms. Lucia Netti, who is the regional partner for Sino and European activities. She is a sought-after consultant and international speaker in international law and industry law. She is also a well-known negotiator and cross-border problem solver. Also from the digital crew side, we have Mr. Daniel Xu, who is the APAC General Manager. He has 20 years experience in the marketing and was previously head of marketing for Dell, Schuneck Electric, and many multinational countries. He is also as the APAC General Manager, he is responsible for driving strategy and making sure the team deliver excellent results. Now we begin with Ms. Lucia's presentation.
Thank you, Jean. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, depending on your time zone. Thank you for attending our webinar. First of all, I would like to spend only a few minutes to introduce you our group, Horizons Corporate Advisory. We are a consultancy firm specialized in law and tax matters, and we provide professional assistance and support to the companies that are interested in the overseas investments. I mean that our support begins when you are planning your investment in China, for example, to advise you about the best structure, legal structure to enter in the market. And then we provide the daily assistance for all your investment in China. With our offices around the world, and as one of the members of the so-called China Collaborative Group, we may provide assistance in over 20 countries in the world. And regarding to China, we are operating in China since more than 30 years. As Jane said, we are executing a lot of webinars with the purpose to reply to the question, is it the moment to go in China today? And with the information that we will provide to you today and in the last webinars, we would reply that today China could be an opportunity. For those that are not the attendees of our previous webinar, I would remind that today the attitude of the Chinese government is to really encourage the foreign investments in China. And this is clear because the procedure to enter in China, a lot of administrative procedure to manage your company today are more easy comparing with the past. But having that said, for sure, one mandatory issue is to operate in compliance with the Chinese law. This is a very important issue, especially today, because it is true that today you may find in China a lot of measures issued by the government to support and to encourage the investments in China. But it is also true that to really take the advantages from such investments, you need to be a reliable company in China. And to be a reliable company in China, you need to operate in compliance with the law. This is to say that my talking today with you is to provide some information that could help you to navigate in China in a very legal way. Now I'm going to share with you some slides that include the topics, the main topics that I would like to talk with you today. And the first issue that I would like to discuss with you is, in my opinion, one concern of the entrepreneurs when they are approaching the China market. And in my experience of 15 years in supporting the enterprise in investing in China, this is a very important issue. The issue is, to invest in China, is necessary or is useful to go through an Hong Kong company? This is a very old issue that also today is in the mind of the entrepreneurs. And I would immediately reply to such questions saying that it is not necessary nor useful to invest in China through an Hong Kong company if you are interested in the China market. What I would mean? This means that if you would like to operate in China, you need to be in China. If you would like to launch your business in the China market, you need to start in the China market directly. Few issues to consider to support such assumption. First of all, Hong Kong and China have different rules. If you have a company in Hong Kong, you have to comply with the Hong Kong laws that is similar to the common law. If you have to set up a company in China, you have to comply with the Chinese rules that are totally different. And having a company in Hong Kong shall not mean to have a company in the mainland China. I would like to point out one situation that is a risky situation and that sometimes we notice in the foreign investments. I'm referring to the case when a foreign investor set up a company in Hong Kong, because, for example, Hong Kong could be more simple in the constitution process, and then with such company decide to manage some Chinese persons that work in the Chinese territory. This is not legal, and this situation shall be avoided. Why? Because to operate in the China territory, to create business and to receive revenue in the China market, you need to constitute a company in the Chinese territory. And with such company, you have to employ your Chinese person. Differently, you could have two kinds of risk. The first one is related to the labor law, because such Chinese employees are working illegally for you that without having a company. But the second issue that, in my opinion, is very important is that if you are operating with some person and in a very constant way in the Chinese territory, you could be recognized as a permanent establishment. It is a big risk because in such case, the Chinese government could require you to pay the taxes of the business generated in China and could require you to pay some penalties. This is to say that today, to come in China, you should arrive in China directly. Maybe you may evaluate to use other companies such as Hong Kong, but if you are interested, for example, in the APAC region, and so you need that, having Hong Kong could be a favorable idea. I would clarify that I am saying this not because I am against the investment in Hong Kong, because Horizons is in Hong Kong too. But the investment shall be really evaluated, because today, having a company in Hong Kong shall mean to really manage your company in Hong Kong. It cannot be an empty box. Because, for example, to manage a bank account in Hong Kong and also to open a bank account in Hong Kong is not easy, absolutely. And this is according to the global legislation about the anti-money laundering and anti-terrorism laws. Therefore, it is mandatory to analyze very well such issue. And if you're interested in the China market, you can go directly to the China market. In a lot of situations, when you launch your business in the China market, as foreign investors, you prefer to start a cooperation with a Chinese partner. And so, in the last years, up to today, the choice of the foreign investment was to constitute a joint venture. But today, from the point of view of the management of the joint venture and also the constitution, the situation has been changed. I would say that today, the joint venture concept in China is dead. Why I am saying this? Because with the new law that since this year regulates the foreign investments in China, the three laws that in the past years regulated all the foreign investments, including the laws for the joint venture, were abolished. This means that today, if you constitute a joint venture, you have only to comply with the company law of China. That is the same law for the local company. This situation, this new law, has simplified the constitution procedure of the joint venture and also the management of the joint venture. Some practical example for your better understanding. In the past, when you have to constitute a joint venture, you have to obtain the preliminary approval on the articles of association of the joint venture contract. And in such situation, the Chinese government really enter in your documents and in your agreement to discuss such agreement between the shareholders. Today, the situation has been changed because you have not to file to the authorities and to require the approval of your articles of association or the joint venture contract. These are internal agreements of the shareholders, and so you can freely manage your investment. This is a very important issue to understand if you would like to start a joint venture in China. And speaking about the joint venture, another important issue that is effective since this year is that today you may constitute a joint venture with a Chinese natural person. As you may imagine, this innovation could create a lot of opportunities because maybe you have your Chinese man in China and you are interested to start with him a cooperation, more strong cooperation, so you may decide to constitute with him a joint venture. In the past, this was not possible because if you would like to start a cooperation with a Chinese natural person, you have to require him to set up a company first. As I said, today, it doesn't make sense to speak about joint venture or wholly foreign invested enterprise, because in any case, if you would like to constitute a company in China, it is a local company, let's say. But in my opinion, there are some points that shall be well considered before setting up a company in China and to well manage the company in China. The first issue is that it's strongly suggested to have a business plan before entering in China. As you all may know, having a business plan is very useful to control the operations of the company and to control all your business from the commercial point of view. But from the legal side, to have a business plan is very important to define the amount of the registered capital that you have to remit in your Chinese company. This is a very important point because in China, there is not the concept of the shareholders' loan. I mean that if at what moment you need some capital in your company, you have to apply for the capital increase in China. And it is an administrative procedure when you have to prepare documents to file at the authorities. Differently, you may decide to provide funds to your company in China with some service agreement, let's say. But today, there are a lot of control on such service agreement so that they shall be really related to a service. You have to demonstrate that the money that you are providing to your company are supported by some evidence. What I am saying is that it is very important before setting up the company to define the capital that you would like to remit, and such capital should be used to support your company in the startup periods. Also because today there is not a limit in the amount of the capital to remit in your company, and there is not a limitation in the time that you have to remit the capital. Therefore, it's better to think about this in advance. After this issue, you may start to prepare the legal documents, and regarding the legal documents, we have the Articles of Association and other similar agreements, and also the appointment letters to appoint your corporate bodies. In this regard, it shall be considered that every time that you will change, for example, the board directors, the legal representatives, and so forth, you have to file an application to the authorities to notify such change. It is an important issue because if you didn't find such application, at the end, all the legal representative will remain in charge in your company and will have also the responsibility. After this, having all the legal documentation ready, you may file the documents to the Chinese authorities. Today, the constitution procedure in general is more simple comparing with the past because a lot of steps of the constitution procedure could be made via online application. And in general, the constitution procedure will take around 90 days. Then it depends by the municipality and also by the business, but in general, we can consider 90 days. In this regard, speaking about the constitution procedure, I would point out one issue that sometimes is a concern for the foreign investment, and it is related to the company name of your Chinese company. As a Chinese company, you have to choose a company name that will be in Chinese, because the customers in China and also the authorities will recognize you with such company name. To have the approval of the company name, you have to file an application at the Chinese authorities. The rules relating to the company name of the companies are very complicated, also today. Today, I would say that the procedure has been changed a lot, so you may receive the approval of 3 company names, and then you may choose a company name more appropriate. But it's necessary to define the Chinese characters that you would like to file at the authorities. And the Chinese characters that you will choose are very important. One issue to consider is that the company name is totally different from your trademark. You may register your trademark in China, and then in my talking today, I will speak about this. And you have to register your company name in China. But the authorities where you will file the application for trademark on one side and for the company name on another side are different authorities. So you may say that you could have some Chinese characters for the company names and other characters for your trademark. Yes, it could be, but after the approval of your company name in Chinese, you may decide, and it is suggested, to register also such Chinese characters as your trademark in China. Having to say, after the completion of all the constitution procedure, you may start the operation of your company, you may start to employ your employees. And for some specific sectors and for some products, you should also start to apply for permits and license. In this regard, as you may know, there are a lot of sectors, for example, the pharmaceutical sectors and some technology sectors that require to have some specific license and permits. And in this regard, considering that today my partner Digital Crew will speak about the digital marketing, I would like to point out that if you are interested in the e-commerce in China, you have to comply with the legal requirement to execute the e-commerce in China. There is a law in China regarding the e-commerce, and according to this, to sell your products or services through internet, you need to have a company in China. Such company need to apply for a license and need, after this, to apply for the relevant permits and license for some products if necessary. Having that said, sometimes the companies could decide to use a distributor instead of constituting a company in China. So such distributor could apply for the relevant licenses and start to promote your products. It could be a solution, but I would say that also in this case, you have to balance your interest, because if you decide not to enter in China, but to start the business with a distributor, you are not in China. Your distributor is in China. For sure, you can cut the cost of your investment in China, but in the long period, you need to really balance the interest, because today the customers would like to see the foreign investors in China. If you really decide to have a distributor or an agent in China, there are some issues that, from the legal point of view, but not because I am a lawyer, to protect you, shall be considered. The first one is to draft a real contract. In my experience, I know that the businessmen usually don't like the long contracts and the lawyer in general. But in our case, the contract is very important because you are making business with a foreign country that is totally different. You need to have a contract well prepared for two purposes. First one, a practical issue. It should be considered that to justify all the transaction with your Chinese partner, you need to have a contract to present to the bank and to the relevant authorities. The bank will analyze such contract to approve the payments and the money transfer. This is a very important issue. And the other issue is that the contract shall protect your interest in front of the distributor. And it shall be a contract enforceable in China. Because, for example, for the distribution ship, your distributor will sell the product in China. So you need to have an instrument to claim against him in China. Therefore, the choice of the applicable jurisdiction is the priority. The last issue regarding the contract is that it is important to translate such contract in Chinese. Why? Because in China, the Chinese language is the national language. All the authorities and in all the procedure, they were required to have the contract translated in Chinese. If you prepare the contract translated in Chinese in advance, you could be sure that the Chinese version is really equal to the English version. Differently, for example, in a legal procedure, it will be necessary to appoint an interpreter, but you cannot be sure that the translation could be really equal to the legal part in English. Connected with the need to have a well-prepared contract, there is the need to protect your trademark. To protect your trademark in front of your distributor and agent. we really have a lot of situations where at the end we discover that the Chinese partner, the Chinese distributor, finally registered the trademark of the foreign investors in China. And then to claim the ownership of your trademark in China is not an easy procedure, and this means huge cost for you to recover your trademark. Therefore, it's better to proceed in advance to protect your trademark in front of distributors, agents, and any other third party. And to protect your trademark, there are some points that shall be considered. I will start to speak about trademarks showing you such image. You will see in your screen a sentence in Chinese that means that I legally registered your trademark in China. And I am not crazy, but I would like to justify such sentence. You can see the image that is a bottle of wine with a very famous horse. And I would ask, but the Ferrari company, the very famous company, has started to sell the wine in China? Obviously, the reply is negative. It is a very famous case in the past years related to the recordal of a trademark similar to the Ferrari trademark in China from a Chinese natural person. In summary, the situation is the following. A Chinese natural person filed the application to register the trademark of Ferrari in Chinese characters, Falali, and obtained the registration at the China Trademark Office of such trademark. So it is very interesting. It is interesting because Ferrari, the famous automotive brand, registered the trademark in China in 39 classes. So a very important structure of protection of the trademark in China. But the most part of them was made via international registration. Ferrari started a legal procedure against such Chinese person, and at the end this year they obtained a favorable decision, and so the Chinese has to stop the use of the trademark in China. I would not to comment the procedure and the final decision, but my point is that at the beginning the Chinese man obtained the registration of the similar trademark. And this issue is important for me to introduce one point. How you have to protect your trademark in China. As I said, for those that attended my last webinar, there are two ways. The first one is to apply for the trademark registration at the China Trademark Office, so to make a local application. The other way is to file the application to register your trademark in China at the World Intellectual Property Organization with the so-called metric system. Theoretically, both situations have the same result because at the end you will have your trademark registered in China, but in practically, according to the experience, according to the cases of the last years, it is strongly suggested to register your trademark locally. Why? Because if you register your trademark at the China Trademark Office, you will protect your trademark in the territory against the situation, for example, of the Chinese that would like to register the trademark in China, because it is a local registration. Therefore, it is absolutely strongly suggested to register your trademark in China. For a practical situation, I would say that the cost is not a huge cost, and the duration of such registration is 10 years. And in addition, the list of the products that you may choose to protect in China, if you apply to the national registration, is larger comparing with the international classification. So it is suggested to proceed with the national registration. But when you have to register your trademark in China, you have to fully protect your trademark to comply to other steps. The first steps after your registration in China is to license your trademark to any third parties, including the joint venture, including your Chinese subsidiary, your distributor, your agent, no matter, to any third party. You have to license the trademark in a legal way according to the Chinese law. And sometimes such step is not considered by the foreign investors because they don't know. According to the law, to license your trademark in China, you have to sign a trademark license agreement. Such trademark license agreement could be free of charge or could provide some royalties. It is suggested to provide some royalties to justify such kinds of license, a minimum amount at least. And then you have, according to the law, to record such license at the China Trademark Office. It is a very important issue because if you record such license agreement at the China Trademark Office, then such agreement is enforceable against any third party. So it is a very strong instrument to protect the use of your trademark in China. In addition, there is another point that you have to consider to protect your trademark in China, that is to record the trademark at the Chinese customs. It is a very useful instrument. How does it work? You need to have your trademark registered at the China Trademark Office. Then, after this, we file an application at the Chinese customs. And during this application, we will declare, in addition to the trademark, also the list of companies that are permitted to receive or to send out to China your product. In case the Chinese customs will find any products branded with your trademark that come from a company not inserted in the list, they will block the products. They will notify you such a situation and you will decide how to proceed. It is a very important measure to use to protect your trademark, and I strongly suggest to apply to. I'm going to conclude my presentation saying that, as we said, today China could be an opportunity. It is a huge market because with 1.3 billion of Chinese that could be customers, you really could catch some customers in the market. And when we speak about China, we have not to consider only the main cities near to the coast, because there are a lot of municipalities and regions that today are promoting the foreign investments in China and could be a really interesting market for your products. But today, I think that the key to enter in China is, first of all, to evaluate which product you would like to insert in the China market, because the Chinese are looking for foreign investments and foreign products. And on the other side, how you are managing your investment. Because today, especially today, to take the advantages from the China market, you need to operate in compliance with the law. I'm here to reply to any question you could have. The time is very short, so we have to stop here. And thank you for listening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lucia, for that very insightful presentation. Before we go on to Daniel's presentation, there's a short poll that has popped up on your screen. And what it is that anybody who is interested in further webinars, if you could pick the topic that you would be interested in from the Horizon side before we begin Daniel's presentation, and then we'll move on to the digital marketing.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Lucia. Lucia just talked about the defense. In other words, how to protect your business in China. I'm going to switch the scale a little bit, talking about the offense, how to do business in China by leveraging the social media popular used in China. First, just a quick introduction of the Digital Crew. We're a multinational company based in Sydney, Australia. We are an agency, we focus on cross-cultural marketing. So our mission is to help bridge the culture gap for our clients who wants to target different countries and with different cultural segments. We're a company based in Sydney, headquartered in Sydney, and we have offices in Melbourne, and we also have an office in Shanghai, Guangzhou, Hong Kong, China, and Tokyo in Japan. We also have an office in Mumbai, India, and New York City in the States. We actually provided services in different languages: Chinese, Japanese, English, and many other languages. And our services covers digital strategy, brand audit, in market insights analysis, and also we provide a creative design and localized design, web and mini program design, and many other services. Our clients from different industries, from different countries. For education, we provided services to organizations like Study NSW, Study Paris, Yale University from the States, and also we have clients from tourism industry, Cebu Airline from Philippines, Leisure Pass Group from England, and Qinlong from China, Ariba from Singapore. Also, we provided services to FMCG companies from Australia and other countries, like L'Oreal from France, Oriton Chemist Warehouse, Cancer Council from Australia, LKK from Hong Kong, and Kroger from the States. Okay, talk about this the digital trends and platforms in China. We all know the coronavirus took place in China, started in China in early January. Pretty much all sectors got hit badly. You can see the industry output, retail sales, fixed asset investment. They got hit very negative in growth, except one sector, the online sales, got a positive growth from January to February, even from February to March, got even higher growth, like a 6%. So across the sectors, online sales pretty much is the only one that keep the growth, positive growth for the first quarter of 2020. When people talk about many international businesses talk about this the internet commerce platform, they always the first one came up is Alibaba, because Alibaba has the most one of the most successful IPO in the Nasdaq, and very famous in the worldwide. But our recommendation for business, especially for new business enter the China market, Alibaba is not the top choice. It's mostly for the business in China, from China. The top ones you can see on the right, the graph, the color, Tmall Global, JD Global, and the Little Red Book. Those are some the e-commerce platforms we recommend for international business. If you want to start a business and doing e-commerce sales, platform you should go with to start with. And many businesses, when they think about China, they want to go to the tier 1 city, Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. It is true that those cities, they have like a highest disposable income per capita. But looking at this chart, by 2030, the second tier cities, even third tier cities, below third tier cities, they'll have a lot higher growth rate for tier 1 cities. So we recommend if business, especially those business provide product like made-in product, if you think about the China, avoid this tier 1 city. This is a very saturated market. Maybe go to the second tier city, even third tier city. The audience is large and the growth rate is high. So you should have a big market in those tier 2, tier 3, even the tier 4 cities in China. A live stream has become a very popular business marketing method in China. So the KOL, the two most famous KOL in China, who hosts this live stream sales, in one single day, 2019, they recorded 1 billion RMB and 2.7 billion RMB sales, respectively. So very, very high, scary sales numbers in China. And the Kuaishou, the number 2 biggest short video app in China, also they took the live stream to another high level. They recorded like 100 million live streaming DAUs by December 2019. A lot of people heard of this Baidu, because in China, Google does not work, not like in most countries other than China. Baidu is the major search engine in China. They provided a very wide range of advertising products, very similar to Google can do. They provide like a display ads and text search ads and information feed ads. Also, they have like a unique product offering like a brand zone and Baidu Knowledge. They have the Baidu now, they have like a 400 million active users. The major in China, other than Baidu, there are some other search engines, 360 and Sogou. And nowadays, the competition in search engine market is getting more and more fierce. And those new players like Shenma and Sogou, they are emerging in the market. We don't see them replace the Baidu in the market in the short term, but they're growing very fast. See, the Sogou is taking over 20% market share now. And Baidu SEO is designed to target the behavior of especially the Chinese, the internet users. So they use the result-driven techniques, deliver the tailored Baidu SEO services to meet the brand need and objective. Baidu, the search engine itself, not just provide search engine, they also integrate other products like a Baidu Knowledge, Baidu Experience, Baidu Graph, Baidu Maps, etc. And also they can increase the visibility for keywords related to business that can result in gains in sales and brand awareness. So in China, if you want to really leverage the search engine, Baidu is still your top choice to do business in China. We talk, there's some numbers saying how popular the live stream for e-commerce in China is now. First, it's called like a 21st century television shopping. And last year, they recorded the sales turnover exceeded 200 billion RMB. And the conversion rate is very, very high. It's up 65%. And also on the Double 11, the shopping day, I guess many business heard of this very famous shopping day in China. Just in 2 hours, this Taobao host recorded the sales 267 million RMB. It's a very, very high number sales through the live stream sales. And there are some other numbers saying how popular the live stream is now in China for e-commerce. Almost 65% of users, they watch the live stream to relax in their daily life. And over 50% of live stream users, they'll comment, they'll interact with the host. And over 40% of users, they showed the interest. They said they like the live stream shows, and they will reward hosts and interact with the host. And almost 90% of the live stream users, they gave a positive comments on the live stream marketing. So it shows how important and how popular the live stream marketing is in China. Douyin, I guess a lot of people heard of this Douyin. This is a TikTok in Western countries, and it has become a good platform for online marketers to promote their services and their products in China. And also it is become a very, very efficient platform for KOLs to work with a business to increase the brand awareness and generate sales. There's some, I want to introduce some social media platform in China. The popular used like a Douyin, Little Red Book, Youdao, Meituan, and Mafengwo. Looking at this chart, you can see for short video, there are two top leaders. Number one is Douyin, and Kuaishou is actually catching up. And for Weibo, Weibo is still the dominant player for social, Weibo social. It's kind of like a Twitter in the States. And also for others like Instagram, instant messaging, like a QQ provided by Tencent, the company that provided the WeChat services. And online video, there are like iQIYI. Those are players in this market. Oh, here we go. Okay, TikTok, Douyin. Just a little introduction for TikTok, Douyin in China. It is. It has like 800 million active users worldwide. Almost 60% of them are based in China. In other words, means most of the users of Douyin are from China. And over 1 million views. They generated over 1 million views in China per day, and there are in China there are daily active users, so over 150 million. There are like it's especially for young generation. Almost every kid they use Douyin to in their daily life, and nowadays it's already generated 2 billion downloads, more than 2 billion downloads. And it has become one of the world's most downloaded apps in the past years. And over 80% of them are under 35 years old. So it's mostly for young generations uses. Little Red Book, I guess some people already heard of this. This is an app created in 2013, June 2013. It's a social media e-commerce platform. By last year, they already have almost over 200 million registered users. Users, they on this platform, they share their experience, their travel experience, their dining experience, and their experience of shopping, buying luxury products, buying cosmetics. So a lot of companies are working with a Little Red Book, the KOLs on Little Red Book to promote their products and their services. These are some samples on KOLs, how they actually promote their the business product and on Little Red Book. Meituan is a leader in China. It's provided offline to online services. It's actually is a one-stop super app for a wide range of services that includes haircut, movie tickets, massage, food, hotel, all kind of services. The revenue growth from 2015 to 2017 recorded almost 800% revenue growth. Now there are almost 500 million active users, and there are over 6 million active merchants on this platform, and recorded over 20 million transactions per day. Youdao is another platform. It's very popular among Chinese students who has a need to learn foreign languages. It has a translation for over 100 languages, and it provides online courses to students. There are over 500 million e-learners on this platform, and over 2 million Chinese students are learning the second language, making this the largest language study group in the world. And this, the market share in China nowadays, it takes over 80% market share, and has over 60 million monthly active users, and provided courses to over 20 million online students online. Mafengwo is another platform, more is related to travel. It bridges underlying the gap between the travelers and their interest about the locations on this platform. For many travelers, they travel, they book tickets, and come back, share their experience, write their articles, post those articles on this platform. There are over 8 million app daily active users. The monthly active users over 100 million, and there are generated long content by users by over 700,000. Those just a few social media platforms in China. This spin, you can see, it's very, I'm sure most people look at this, feel dizzy, but this is a typical China, the social media landscape in China. It says how complicated, sophisticated in China the social media landscape has become today. So we highly recommend, if you want to target China, really want to leverage the Chinese media, you need to work with expert specialists, because this is a so complicated platform. It's not that easy for international business, at least to start your business in China, to really understand this. Finally, we highly recommend to for business that want to explore the market, succeed in China, to localize your communication in China, to succeed your business adventure in China, and to have a presence in a local digital platform is very, very critical to help business connect with your clients, with your suppliers, employees, and other stakeholders to be more effectively to succeed in China. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for your time, and I think we open for some questions.
Yes. So thank you, Daniel, for your presentation. Before we go on to the Q&A, there is another poll specifically for the digital marketing. So what kind of topics you would like to see us mentioning for the webinar? So if you could take a moment and pick which topic you would like to see more of. And then we will move on to the Q&A. For those who would like to make a question, please use the Q&A box at the bottom. Okay, so we have one. We're going to start off with the questions for Lucia. So there is a question on JV. As JVs is now easier to establish, why is the title of your PPT the Death of JVs?
Well, this is because in the past, when you had to set up a joint venture, you had to comply with a specific law that was drafted for the foreign investors. That is the Sino-Foreign joint venture. So it is a law different from the normal company law applicable to the Chinese company. Because the joint venture before the 2020 was a company not equal to the Chinese company. And also the treatment of the joint venture in China was complicated, was very different comparing with the local companies. But today, with the new foreign investment law that came into effect from the 1st of January 2020, it is not appropriate to speak about joint venture. In the common language, if you start a company with a Chinese partner, we can speak about joint venture in the common language. But from the legal point of view and for the administration of your company, we are speaking about a normal company in China. It is a very important issue because today, if you constitute a joint venture, if you constitute the so-called foreign invested company, no matter, because in any case, you have to comply with the normal company law. It is very different from the past, because in the past, there are a lot of obligations and rules that should be applied to the joint venture. This is because I said that today, the joint venture are dead in China, because you may constitute a company by yourself or with a Chinese partner. But in any case, there is only one law to comply with, and the constitution procedure is more easy because it's more similar to constitute a normal Chinese company in China.
Okay. And second question is about trademarks. To protect the trademark in China, is it necessary to record as Roman characters, logo, and Chinese characters?
This is a very good question, because if you would like to fully protect your trademark, the best practice is to record your trademark, as I said, at the China Trademark Office as your logo, if you have a specific logo to record, as Roman character, and also with the Chinese character, because the customers in China will recognize you with the Chinese characters. And the choice of the Chinese characters to use to record your trademarks are fundamental, because you need to choose some characters with a good means and with a good sound, so that you may attract the customers in China. So this study is very important. Regarding the question if it is really necessary, in practice, Practically, it is necessary to fully protect you. But for example, if you have the logo that is totally equal with the Roman characters because you have not any particular device, you may file only one application. I mean, only the logo, for example. The main important thing is to protect in all the way that you may. I said logo, Roman characters, if possible, and for sure Chinese characters, and also to protect in all the classes that could be related to your business. This is the best practice to apply in China.
Okay. And then the third question is on corporate governance. So what is the basic corporate governance structure of a foreign invested company in China?
Okay, the rules that shall be applied for a foreign invested company, that is a Chinese company, is, first of all, you have to appoint a board of directors or an executive director. It depends by your investment and by the size of your company. Secondly, you have to appoint a legal representative. The legal representative in China could be also the chairman of the board and could be also the general manager. Such position shall be recorded at the Chinese authorities. So they are recorded, they are clear at the Chinese authorities. You have also to appoint the general manager. From this year, in some cities, it's possible not to appoint a general manager, but it depends by the cities and by the municipalities. So it's necessary to check in advance. And there are another two positions that it is important to appoint. The first one is the supervisor. Sometimes the foreign investors don't care about the supervisor, and they are used to appoint a person that in practically doesn't execute the real action of the supervisor. But the supervisor is a fundamental person for the control of your investment in China, because the supervisor could, let's say, enter in the company, could make, for example, audit in the company, could claim against the directors, the general manager, in case of illegal action. And all this is to protect the foreign investors. So it is a very important position, and it is fundamental to appoint a person that really knows the Chinese law, the Chinese rules, and that can really support your investment. The last position is one basic accountant. If you decide to appoint, for example, a consultancy firm, such as we could be, we, for example, may execute the work of the accountant, but I suggest, in any case, to have at least one basic accountant that in Chinese is the Chuna, that could proceed with the basic collection of the documents, so that this could facilitate the operation of the company. Also because you have to consider that in China, to constitute a company is necessary to record a registered address. This is totally different from other countries because you may not record your legal address, for example, at the consultancy firm or in another office. The principle in China is one address, one company. It is mandatory. And having that said, having a person that could, for example, reply to the phone and could make the accountancy basic work could be useful.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, and then now we have some questions for Daniel. What are the popular B2B marketing channels?
There are quite a few. First, we highly recommend you should have a Chinese website to be able to communicate with local Chinese consumers. Even though a lot of Chinese nowadays, they are well educated, they can read English, but they still feel more comfortable reading their own native language, which is Chinese. Second, Baidu, like I just mentioned, Baidu 360, the search engine is another one you definitely should use. And also LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the one very good at targeting particular business people from any particular industry with a particular position. So all those, I think, most popular B2B marketing channels in China.
Okay, thank you so much. And then we have another one which is on the marketing landscape. Given that marketing landscape have so many players, do different provinces in China favor the different types of apps? If so, what are the differences you've observed? Or on the popular apps generally used nationwide with minor to almost with minor differences among the provinces?
Generally speaking, there's no big difference like the one I just mentioned in my presentation, like Little Red Book, like a Mafengwo, those kind of platforms. You don't see big difference. Actually, people from different geographic locations, they all watch the same platform, and that doesn't make a difference. But there's some difference on some e-commerce platform. For example, like Pinduoduo. I don't know how many people heard of this, getting very high valued on NASDAQ in the States, the stock market. That platform actually is mostly they provided product targeting, I would say like a below third tier city, people living in third tier cities, mostly like a lower income areas. So there are a few, but not a lot.
Okay. And then the last question is, how much is the minimum media spend for live streaming?
For live streaming, the cost mostly just to hire KOLs. So the range is very varied. Expensive one, like the tool I just mentioned, could cost a few millions for a couple of hours. But the cheap ones could be as low as a couple of $1,000s. So it depends. The cheapest one is a couple of $1,000, I would say, but the followers are a lot fewer than the most expensive ones.
Okay. So this concludes the end of our presentations. Thank you, Lucia. Thank you, Daniel, for both your insights. And thank you so much for listening to us. And we hope to see you both all on the next webinar.